Welcome back to another episode of Black Girls Texting. It's your girl, Sade. Hey, bitches.
It's your girl, Charles Pinky.
I didn't know we were singing and I'm not prepared. It's Glenn. Oh, I gotta say.
That was melodic.
Welcome back to another episode of Black Girls Texting. It's just Chelsea and I for the intro bit. Glenn is...
Hello.
Where's Glenn?
Now?
Flying
Girl.
to a wedding? Somebody's wedding. There's weddings.
Who
Y'all all
knows?
got weddings.
Who knows with that child?
Anywho, let's jump in. Read a reply.
Yeah. You want to start?
Sure. Listeners, if you're sensing a sense of urgency from me, it's because I am panicking. I have so much to do. It's actually fucking insane. So I'm just leaving that on red. And yeah, I need to order tiles and a shower body and sinks, toilets. Fucking crazy. Trying to negotiate with my contractor because he just gave me his quote and it's actually madness. But I guess that's adulting. Nothing to reply to.
Damn.
Just need to get this shit done. So there's that.
Okay. All right. Well, I will reply to my new job. I feel like it makes a world of difference when you have a good or a bad manager. Like a world of difference, no matter if it's a dream job. If your manager's shitty, the job's gonna be shitty. And my manager, this morning, I woke up to like a Slack conversation with my entire team, my manager, and his boss. And in the Slack, my manager proceeded to basically tell his boss how great everyone on his team is and what we've done. I've only been there for 3 weeks. And he, we've had our one-on-ones where I'm telling him what I'm doing. And like, I'm new, like I'm not doing that much, but I am trying, right? And he like wrote it in such a way that was like so complimentary. And like, I feel like as a manager, that's what you're supposed to do, is figure out how to make your team shine. And he did that in such a amazing way. And I'm so grateful and I'm happy that we're off to this great start. So I'm going to reply to him. And I am going to leave on red just the amount of BBLs that I encounter in Los Angeles. No shade to the BBL girls. It's just like everywhere though. I'm like, does everyone have to get a BBL? But you know what? I guess I shouldn't leave that on red because do what the fuck you want to your body. It's just wild. I'm very interested to see what our world is what LA is going to look like when we are all 70 with BBLs. It's going to be an exciting view.
What a time to be alive. 70 with BBLs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're big BBLs too. They're not, it's like a obvious, I got this BBL in Colombia look, and it's just very prevalent out here. So interesting.
I'm crying. It's very prevalent. Damn.
It's very prevalent.
Well, to each his own.
To each its own, or to each their own. To each
do
what you want.
Be safe.
Be safe. Do we have a Black girl doing shit?
She just skipped over hotline bling, y'all, but it's okay.
Oh.
No one's hotline is blinging but me making payments. Someone else's hotline is blinging with my Zelle payments. How about that? But yes, of course, we have a Black girl doing shit. She's also our guest on this week's episode. Bree Jenkins, better known as Bree to her clients, is going to be stepping into the group chat. But yeah, super exciting conversation that we had with her. You all are going to love it, I think, and let us know. But yeah, let's step on into the group chat.
All right, y'all. It's time for the group chat. We have a beautiful, gorgeous Black girl doing shit in the building. We are joined by Bree Jenkins, better known as Bree to her clients. And she's been working in mental health, life coaching, and counseling services since 2002. She's a graduate of both Pepperdine University. I wanted to go there so bad. The campus looks gorgeous. Their Graduate School of Education and Psychology, and Dillard University's Bachelor of Arts in Psychology program. So she has extensive training in the mental health field. You know, we only come to y'all with the experts. And knowing that everyone wants to feel comfortable with their therapist, Bree is sensitive to cultural issues, needs, and various styles of communicating. So beyond issues of ethnicity, Bree is also LGBT affirmative in her counseling style. More than comforting style with clients, Bree mixes several styles of therapy to meet the needs of the couples or individuals that seek her out. She often pulls from cognitive behavioral therapy, narrative, humanistic, person-centered, and mindfulness therapy. And Bree is also a marriage and family therapist and dating and life coach specialist with 2 private practices in SoCal. And you guys got to check out her IG. I loved going through, seeing all your stories. Everything you posted, we'll be sure to put in the show notes. But thank you so much for joining us.
I'm excited to be here. Always excited for the Black girl energy.
Yes.
And just all of it is so fabulous. So I'm excited to dig in and give our listeners some gems.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We're excited. We're all in different stages, I think, when it comes to like the dating and the future marriage. So we'll have a lot of fun there. But first, I wanted to just learn more about your background. You have a very extensive resume. I'd love to know like how you got started in this work and why you enjoy it.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I'm like, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this because a lot of therapists wind up having like, it's their second career, but this has been my kind of passion since day one. Right. I am a multifaceted person. Of course, I've again like a creative and things like that. But when I went to undergrad, I actually majored in psychology because I knew that I wanted to work helping people with mental health and just transforming their lives. The inspiration origin story of kind of all the work that I do actually is my family. So my brother was diagnosed with bipolar disorder his freshman year when he went away to Morehouse. And actually he went to Duke and then he had to come back and then he went to Morehouse. So that's why he had like 2 freshman years. But I remember seeing him struggle to find a therapist that looked like him, find a therapist that spoke his language, and just recognizing that huge disparity of like the stigma of mental health and seeing that. I think that was my inspiration for, wanting to understand things myself. And so yeah, I majored in psychology. I first worked in social work. I went back for my master's in marriage and family therapy, and I jumped into community mental health and then eventually did private practice. And then the evolution of my doing coaching actually was my sister. So my sister was super smart, like a bookworm. She really didn't romantically develop the same as her peers. She went to Stanford when she was like 15 years old. Oh, she's like super smart, but that's clearly younger than the people around you.
Yeah.
So by the time she finished her education, her master's and stuff, she kind of was like behind the ball. And there was a summer that both of us, no lie, we was both broke in New Orleans. That's where I'm from. And I was like, sis, let me help you. I'm gonna put you on. Like, we're gonna eat steak dinners and lobster all summer long. Have a good time, And she was like, okay, sis, I'll let you help me. So I redid her profile. I like gave her a makeover. I like told her like, don't do this, do this, don't do this. And she actually met her husband.
That summer?
What? That summer she met her husband. She met her husband. Wow. One of the first few guys to interact with her on that new profile. And she almost didn't. She was like, I don't think I should talk to him. I don't like his picture. And I was like, no, you got to say this, you got to do this. So she wound up going out with him and, it turned into a thing. And then one of her friends asked me, let me get some of that magic touch. And I wound up helping her get in a relationship. And then there was like one other friend that happened with, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. This is kind of a skill set outside of just what I know as a therapist. Of course, being a therapist definitely helps inform what I do as a dating coach, because like I understand human dynamic and all of those things, right? But I realized like this is its own specialty that I should also help people with. And I love doing both, because regardless of whether I'm doing therapy or life coaching or date coaching, at the end of the day, I work with people. I help transform people's lives in different areas, but to get progress and to be a higher version of themselves. So I'm really passionate about the work.
Can you talk more about the difference between those two approaches? Because, you know, therapy is something that you can do long-term, but it sounds like from what I would assume, coaching might be something you do for a certain amount of time towards a certain goal.
Yeah, that's a great observation. So definitely not all therapy is long-term, but certainly most people, if they find a therapist that they really love, like that's your therapist. Like I have clients that like, they're like, you gonna see me forever.
Right.
You know, like,
this for life.
Yeah, they love having a person who knows their story, who understands them, who keeps them accountable, who helps them see their blind spots, who can go deep, right? Or go just like, this is what's going on with work with me. So therapy to me is very expansive in the amount of topics that it can cover. A lot of times it will definitely connect the past, you know, like we work with trauma, we work with childhood, adverse childhood experiences, things like that, connecting those insights into the present day with therapy. When it comes to coaching, it is more goal-centric, or like you're hoping to see progress in a specific part of your life. It definitely tends to be a little more, not just the fields, but also like the tools. Sometimes as a coach, I am instructional, right? I'll tell a client, like, get rid of this picture. Like, this is not the picture, right? You need to do this, or like, this doesn't show you off in a certain way.
What would make you tell a client to get rid of a picture?
A goofy picture with like a hot dog filter on it or something, you know, like people have all kind of things that they just don't realize is marketing them in a bad way. I can't tell you the amount of things I've just told a person flat out, take this picture off, you know, and they'll say, oh, I thought it was showing my sense of humor. And I'm like, the person doesn't know you. This is their first impression of you. You know, like if you're eating a 20-foot long hot dog at a hot dog eating contest, maybe the person doesn't know that's a sense of humor thing. They may think you're a professional hot dog eater, not, you know, so it's like, take that off, you know. So I would, as a therapist, I wouldn't tell a client like, take this off, right?
Right.
It would be more like exploring, like,
why did you post this?
Why did you post this? You know, like all around about the way. So sometimes I think of coaching as like when you need the results and you're ready to go intense and you want to focus on it. Definitely as a therapist, relationships come up, right? But if you've been to therapy, you know, one day you're talking about relationships, one day you talk about work, talk about your mom, and you talk about, you know, like all kinds of things. With a coach, when I see the client, I'm like, what's going on with these things? Where's the progress? Did you do the profile? Did you do this? Did you do that? So I think they're both great. I love doing both of them. I definitely think that they can work in harmony and not apart. So a lot of times coaching clients, I absolutely recommend they have a therapist. As a therapist, I'm always recommending people to go out and get coaching for specific things that they really want to see progress in.
That's really cool. And
yeah,
I just thought maybe you could be like the Black millionaire matchmaker. Like that show has to come back.
It does need to come back. It does need to come back. I that is one of the shows that I definitely watch. And you know, my husband like doesn't like when I watch it because I'll pause it and be like, this is the problem with this person, da, 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 da. And then she'll do it, and then she'll be like, see, I told you. And he's like, we can't even watch this show without you screaming at the TV every 10 minutes.
But you know what that makes me think of is like how, because I like that show too. What was her name? Like Patty Singer or something like that. She found results, but she was also like super critical of people sometimes. And then for some reason, I just started thinking about Kevin Samuels and how he was supposed to be like a coach, but, you know, and I don't know. I don't know. Critical. Super critical.
Like tough love.
Like tough love.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that approach?
So it is not my style, and I'm sure it's not my style because my first background is as a therapist. So, you know, you're there. I think that there are therapists that are tough love. It's not my approach. You know, to me, there's a range of tools, and I'm going to attempt every tool first to avoid doing it the most harsh way. Now, I will say sometimes people do need to hear it the harsh, stripped down way. And if you are good at your job, you should be able to do it if that's the tool that needs to be done to get the client the result that they want. So that's kind of how I think of it. Like, I'm going to tell you the first time, like, okay, maybe not this, or like, oh, you keep going towards these types of people. Like, what do you think about this? And then one day I'm going to say, okay, these are the same men that keep playing you. You keep signing up for it. And if they say, well, this is what you can say, okay, well, we've tried it your way, it doesn't work. Do you want to try my way, or do you want to try your way with the same results you've been having? And sometimes that, like, there's no way to run, right? The message is there. Sometimes that is the moment that the client actually is like, their ego is like open to actually pivoting. So the method, I won't totally bless the method. It is necessary, like a hammer is sometimes necessary. It's just not my first tool. It's not my favorite tool to use. I really do believe that you can usually 95% of the time find a way to say something in a way that's palatable, that inspires people. So for me, Kevin Samuels, like, a broken clock is right twice a day. I will never say that he was 100% wrong. I do not believe that at all. I think that there was some merit to a decent portion of what he said. When I say decent portion, I ain't even talking about 50%. But I'm just saying, like, there were pieces that I was like, okay, I see where he's going with this. Or I've had to tell people this before. However, for me, I'm more interested in building people up and empowering them. And I think if your message ultimately leaves people with a negative taste and they feel torn down, then you don't really create the change that you say you want to make. And so I'd rather do things from a loving perspective where people actually feel inspired to take the advice that I'm trying to give and to enact it, because ultimately it should be about the improvement of the person. And when we do that, I prefer to lift people up.
Yes.
Absolutely. Can you share more about your therapy styles? So there's CBT, but then I have never heard of narrative, humanistic, person-centered mindfulness therapy.
Yeah. So really what it is that I'm an eclectic therapist, or there's different terms for it, right? I'm a pretty integrative therapist, meaning that I don't believe that you can treat each client the exact same way, because everyone is different. Just like I talked about the different tools, right? There are clients that I may take a very person-centered humanistic approach, meaning that the client is the focus and it's about their perspective, and I'm creating an authentic environment for them to be able to share, which is one of my favorite ways to do things, right? And that approach may be very different than like the most traditional therapy, which is like psychoanalytic or maybe psychodynamic therapy, which is like Freudian, where your therapist is a blank slate and they're just like looking at you without emotion.
About yourself.
Yeah.
Tell me about yourself.
How does that make you feel?
How does it make you feel? Like, oh, this reminds you of your mother, right? Again, that tool, sometimes the not giving a client anything to read works, but it's not my favorite style. Doesn't resonate with me, but I also don't think it resonates with a lot of my clients. And it's because I'm a majority with Black and brown people and people of color, right? And there's even studies that show that when you do not emote at all, right, that's not a preferred method for people to feel engaged or for people to even feel safe. So the styles that I tend to gravitate towards are the ones that I think work. They resonate with me, but they also resonate a lot with my client. In terms of CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy, that's a lot of like challenging thought patterns, finding out where thought distortions are. And for some people that can feel like the therapist is the expert, because you may tell me something and I'm actually challenging, did that happen that way? How do you know that when she turned away from you that it was actually jealousy? What if she had a phone call? What if so for some people that's not going to work, because they're like, my reality is my reality. So you really have to listen to what the client is needing right? To really pick out the styles that are going to be best for them, which is why I pull from a lot of different styles.
Oh, that's so interesting. So you're responsive in the moment in some ways.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, for sure. I'm a very responsive therapist. I consult with anybody who is interested in doing therapy with me, because I'm like, I ain't even gonna waste your time. I want to know what's going on with you, right? I'm gonna tell you about myself. I'm gonna tell you about my style. See if that feels good for you in the like 20 or 30 minutes that we talk. And then yeah, I truly believe that people get the best results when they have a great connection with their therapist. And you can kind of tell if you're going to have a good connection with somebody, even from just like, you know, a conversation.
Yeah.
So when I tell people, like, I'm not a very like silent, just looking at you therapist, like, we're going to talk, like, we're definitely going to laugh. I think levity is so important.
Yes.
Not, you know, me and my clients be laughing sometimes in therapy. And I think that it's just what you need sometimes. You know? You need to laugh sometimes. So,
I love that.
Yeah, I just think that you really have to find the right fit, and the best fit for me is a mix.
I really be kikiing with my therapist, like, so I know that I said I wasn't gonna do that, and then I did it, and she'd be like, but yeah, I think that is really, really important, and having that rapport. And it's really interesting to hear how like you are malleable and kind of like changing as you're getting to know your therapist. And I'm also not surprised that a lot of Black and brown folk do not respond well to like Freudian style dry engagements. So I'm curious, because I feel like we've talked about this amongst ourselves before. Do you believe to some capacity that everyone should be in therapy?
It's a tricky question. The truth is I think everyone should do healing work. I don't think that therapists have a lock and key on healing work. The truth is the origin of therapy is a white male created field. And we're changing it every day. And I think that change is so important, but we do not have ownership of healing work. People have been doing healing work all around the world, all different types of ways and effectivity. I believe that therapy can be a wonderful resource for the majority of people. And as a therapist, I'm telling everybody from the rooter to the tutor, go to therapy, right?
Yes.
But when people say everyone needs to go to therapy, right? I'm like, that's actually not true. There are people who are doing so well that, you know, some self-help books, some spiritual resources, some this and that is enough for them to do their healing work. Whereas a lot of people, especially in this country, the way that this country traumatizes so many people, does need therapy work. And that's totally fine.
You mentioned earlier that you see a lot of Black and brown people. And so my co-hosts know that I work with a woman who is very interesting, who refers to herself, she's a white woman, but she says that she's basically Black. She told me that the other day. And she's looking for a therapist. And she said she had to have a Black woman therapist because she's basically a Black woman. The way the
don't bring this on here.
I know, I'm saying it now and it's literally hurting my fucking chest. I had to check her this today on some other shit. I'll talk about it in another episode. I was disturbed by that for many reasons, but I also wondered if there's something to be said about like white people going to see Black and brown therapists to undo any kinds of like, you know, bigotry or just things that are in debt, like, you know, embedded in them. But then but does that end up making the therapist have to do like a different type of emotional labor?
You know, it's a really interesting crosshairs. So there's different opposing thoughts on it. You know, I think some of the hardest cultural racial work that all the therapists were doing was at the height of 2020, right? It was brutal, and every therapist I knew was like, you know, and it is totally possible for a client to racially injure their therapist in session. That's totally possible. Yeah, I've definitely had people who've challenged my education or my expertise, and it felt like it was maybe a microaggression, and you have to process that. As a therapist, you need to have your own safe space to process with your own therapist or with your colleagues to consult. Ultimately, the duty of care is on me right? So I have to figure out a way to process what comes up for me, but what comes up for me is information for the client as well. Because if you're insulting your therapist, you're insulting other people. So it's about creating that safe container where, you know, this can be explored and this can be a healing opportunity for everyone. If she wants a Black therapist, she should go find a Black therapist. But, you know, I would say that the therapist probably is going to be somebody who already is pretty seasoned with doing the type of socio-political, theoretical work where they're going to feel prepared for that. In terms of when I've had, like, I had a post on my Instagram called Black People Are in an Abusive Relationship with America. And it went pretty viral. I mean, it got thousands of shares, and I did a whole like PDF on it. People taught at a university. I just used the domestic violence reel and I replaced it with all of the symptoms of we're literally in an abusive relationship, economic abuse, intimidation, coercion, gaslighting. We have all the symptoms of abusive relationship, demanding that we be peaceful, even as they're not accountable, all those things. And there were a lot of people who were like, oh, this is so powerful. You know, like, I want to do anti-racist work. You know, would you be my therapist? And I just was honest. I don't have the capacity for that. Right now, what I need to use my time on is the clients, my existing clients, and supporting Black and Brown people. But I do know some great white therapists who are committed to their anti-racist work, who can help you in that journey. Just like one of the best books for white people is like the White Fragility book. It's like it's written by a white person.
Right.
You know, they're in the skin to understand you better and to make it most palatable. So that's always my top suggestion for people who say they really want to do anti-racist work.
That was beautifully said.
Yeah. Glenn, I didn't know where you were going with that. It made me nervous, but that was very interesting. I'm going to shift gears and actually move on to your work with couples. So how is it working with couples? We've got a future wife in here. Flash the ring.
Congratulations on the upcoming nuptials. How is it working with couples? I mean, couples take more bandwidth than individuals, right? There's two people in the room. There's a lot of energy. You know, currently I have a small private practice. I'm full right now, but when I do work with couples, at this point, it's mostly for premarital, which I think premarital is great work. I suggest it to everybody. My style of premarital is like, you know, we kind of do 8 sessions and we have different topics that we go through, like money, trust, infidelity, you know, division of labor, family planning, and parenting. Like, we cover the bases and look at each area. And I'm telling you, if you cover them areas, you know, you're going to get the juice that you need to be doing the work.
That's awesome.
Because it really is the top things that wind up undermining marriages. But I'm a big fan of invest in the relationship. That is one of the biggest decisions you're going to make in your life. It is worth it to have those talks in advance. And I definitely think it's worth it to have those talks with a professional.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, they say like most people break up because they didn't have those important conversations before they got married. And I'm wondering, in the dating process, is it ever too early to bring up those conversations, or should we be talking about that on early dating stages?
There's different thoughts around this. I'll speak from my method. So my main date coaching group is my own method. It's called the Diamond Dating League. And basically I have like the stages that I want people to go through. I am a fan of just making connection in the earliest stages of dating, not necessarily grilling somebody for their 100% are you my life partner? Because in a lot of ways, when we do that, we're not building intimacy. We are really a checklist. And I think so many women have felt this before, where you go on a date and the guys ask you this, oh, what about this? What about this? And it almost feels like, okay, before you even get to know me, you're asking me a checklist to make sure that I'm not canceled out. I think that leaves a bad taste in people's mouth, right? So a lot of times I really just want people, if you're going to do any type of, should I even quote unquote waste my time, which I try to get my clients out of the thought of wasting time, because you're not wasting time, you're learning, you're experiencing life, right? Have a phone conversation. People don't want to pick up the phone no more, but it's free. Okay, it's free and it's convenient. And if you actually talk to a person on the phone, if the conversation is dry after 10 minutes, that's telling you a lot about how is it going to be in person, you know? So if you have a free phone conversation and you feel like you can talk to them easy for 30 minutes, there was some kikiing, there was some laughing, you know, it seemed straight. They were able to tell you they have a house, a job, you know, a place. They're not living with their 17 roommates or their, you know, like if you can just pass that initial phone conversation, I think when you show up to the first date, you should just be open to connection, and you should keep that going for a while until you actually feel like you want to start giving this person a decent piece of consideration of your time. But I'm also a fan of date multiple people. So that's why I'm like, we don't even need to get that heavy.
Okay.
Have your roster.
I like this. This transitions us nicely into my dating section. But actually, I did want to ask before we jump into more around like dating, is there something that like with your couples is like a key takeaway that you want them to have?
Yeah, I think definitely when you do couples therapy, you really need to, number one, have your listening ears on, and everything that's happened before you step into the couples therapy room, we need to both come in with the energy of, let's see where this goes. Because a lot of times the therapist needs to get to know you, and people are like, we've already tried this. I told her this already, and she's still doing it, you know, and it's like, oh yeah, you can tell him that, but he's okay. Well, if you guys already know anything and it's locked in, then there's nowhere to go from here. So the moment that you actually decide, let's get professional support, everyone's ego needs to come down and be open to like, I'm going to give you the opportunity to change, and you're going to give me the opportunity to change. And it's not going to be perfect, but we're both working towards the same goal.
That's beautiful. Well, Glenn, you are probably one of the most interesting people I know as a dater. So I don't know how much you're going to comment in on here, but Bree, you have a series of like IG reels that I went through. You discuss like dating dilemmas, dating advice, and like so much more. I was like deep in your page for a really long time. And usually when we're prepping for episodes, I'm like, okay, let me like get to know them a little bit. But I was like, damn, I could be on here forever. It's a really, really great stuff. And again, listeners, we will share all her information because y'all will probably go deep into the rabbit hole like I did. But I'm curious around like what some of the most common challenges you see people have when dating.
Oh, I think dating culture is more unique than it's been in the past decades. I think that there's like almost oversaturation of dating advice from lots of non-credible sources. And posturing on social media is just, it is really making it very hard for people. I think a lot of people don't actually take time to challenge what it is that they need and want in a relationship, truly deeply need, right? I think so many people are focused on these kind of trophy elements that everyone is like walking around saying that they want, right?
Oh, 6 figures.
Yeah, I want the 6 figures. I want to be 6 feet. I want this. I want that. The men are saying like, she needs to do this. She can't be this. She can't be that. Right? And it's like, okay, but what about your deeper actual needs?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have a mom growing up who was affectionate. You need somebody who's affectionate. Like, that's a deeper need than a person, you know, having a BBL body or whatever. So it's kind of like, I think that's one of the top challenges is the amount of looking on social media and everyone sees the grass is green over there. And so they're like, oh, well, I want to do these exact things with my partner. And it's like, but you don't even know how to show up on a date. How you gonna get the partner? You don't even know how to show up on a date. You know, like we need to buy houses together and become real estate. And we want a house in here. And like, if he doesn't know how to invest, I'm like, but you don't text people back. You know?
Let's start there.
How you gonna get
is that
buying multiple houses? You need to text people back. You know what I mean? So I think that's a big part of it. Is like that's a big part of it. There was I feel like it was a book it was about people building, and it was talking about people before they have children already deciding what they want their children to be like and who they want their children to be. And I heard that term and I was like, oh my gosh, so many people do that. They're like literally trying to build specific people. And I actually think people do that in dating as well.
Definitely.
They Without like have like, this is my person, and if you're not that, then get out of my face. I think that's one of the biggest struggles, as well as just the culture of like, who can care the least wins. There's such a inauthenticity, and everyone is so afraid to actually be vulnerable, that it makes dating really hard. That and the disposableness of dating.
Oh my God!
Girl, you just named like
you just
many
said.
things. It's a lot of problems.
Damn, everybody's
right. I'm like, we always say the dating pool has feces in it.
You know what? Here's the thing. I always try to encourage people to have a positive mind around dating, because the truth is that there is a lid for every pot. And if you are a good person and you genuinely want a good connection, I promise you that there is your counterpart out there waiting for you. But you're not going to get to your counterpart if you've convinced yourself that they don't exist and they're in poo water. You know?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't, if somebody told me, oh, the dream Chanel bag that you want is in that doo-doo water, I would be like, I'm good. I don't even want to go in there. You know, like I haven't lived with it all this time.
Rinse it off.
You said I can rinse it off.
Yeah, is it in a box or a bag, like a Ziploc?
But I'm wondering though, like I know that like we shouldn't have this checklist, but like where's the line between the checklist and having standards, or the checklist and having like, you know, things that you are not willing to
You're non-negotiables.
Forgo. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I totally believe in having, you know, one of the first exercises that I do with any of my diamonds is like wants versus needs versus deal breakers versus your compromises. Right. And what I find is most people do not have a list of compromises. They have a list of things that they say are needs, and a lot of them are wants. And the thing is I'm not saying you're only going to get your needs met. You're going to get your needs met. You're going to get like 85% of your wants, but you are going to compromise. You know what I mean? And that's the part that's the blind spot for a lot of people. So a classic example is people say, well, I'm very social. I need somebody who, when I go to a party, I don't want them hanging around me. They need to be able to be like a social butterfly like me. And it's like, do you actually need another social butterfly? Or do you need somebody who's just not going to hold you back?
Right.
Because you don't want to feel like somebody's trying to shrink you. What if your partner is like, go be a social butterfly, I'm chilling over here, I'm fine? Are they just a person who talks to one person? Maybe that's the compromise. Maybe the compromise is your partner doesn't care if you be out with your friends and stuff, and as long as you all have your date night too, they're good. And the people are like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I could do that. And it's like, see, but what you were about to do when you said this was a need, right, was get rid of anybody who was an introvert, which is like a large portion of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Something else that I think is really important. Oh, sorry, Chelsea. This will be quick. Is just that like it is really interesting, I think, being like on the dating side and the therapy side, because for me, I was someone who was like, I need someone to like communicate with me all the time. Like I love someone who's texting me and calling me all the time. And my boyfriend probably has no idea where his phone is half of the time. I really want to get him a beeper so he could just be like alive, because he's just not good with the phone. And I used to take it really personally, but then I realized like it's across the board. Like I'd be having to tell him, call your mama, like respond to your friends. And so once I took it out of like, he's not texting me because he doesn't want to talk to me. And like, I had to also analyze, why do I need so much attention? Because I need to feel reaffirmed all the time. That it was like, it's not about someone who's going to text you all the time. It's just when he sees me, he's like, damn, I really missed you. And I'm glad, we were spending time together and you look really nice today, opposed to texting me shenanigans all damn day. Yeah. But it's like, you have to like dig deep into really even understanding like where does this need even come from?
Yeah, absolutely.
I also feel like our generation,
I don't know if it's a good or bad thing that like, is it good that maybe our standards are becoming higher, or is it bad that we're almost in la la land, that like if anyone has any flaw, it's like settling. Like if anyone's not perfect, it's like settling. And it's like people think like people will post things like, if I gotta argue or not argue, if it's difficult, then it's not meant to be, or something like that.
I don't want
like,
it, right?
Yeah, it's like, but that's a relationship. Like people go through ups and downs, and it's like how they navigate all of that. But I feel like a lot of women our age are just like, no, if it's not easy, I don't want it.
Nothing truly great and worth having is without some type of process that requires flexibility and a little bit of sacrifice or hardship, if you will. That's just the truth, right? To become a millionaire, for the majority of people who don't get a lottery ticket, it means years of working and cultivating an idea and pitching and selling and like refining that process. Everyone wants the end of the story. People want the final chapter, but they don't want to go through the middle of the book, which is where all of the things happen, you know? So I that's one of the top things that I definitely challenge, is like people's inability to be flexible. Inflexibleness is a bad symptom in psychology, and it's a bad symptom in dating as well. So that's why the compromise is so important. And just like you said, that deeper need, right? The need was about reassurance and security. And that can be met not just through a phone call, that can be met somewhere else. So that's why I definitely recommend, like, when people have a lot of struggle in their dating life, the best thing that you can do is get professional support.
I love that. I also wonder, because just speaking to you now, I'm thinking of even more things, but I wonder, like, okay, yes, dating, you should bend or like learn how to compromise, learn how to work. But then where is the point of maybe we're incompatible? Maybe this doesn't work. How do you find that line?
I think that good relationships should result in some type of improvement to yourself. And when a relationship is just, you're not growing, you're not improvement, you're more miserable than you're happy, it's consistent, it's time to get out. You should be practicing an abundant mindset so that, you know, if you do have to let go of a relationship, it's okay. There's more love out there for you. And I think when you really show up with that intention and with that insightfulness, not just impulsively dropping anything that doesn't work, anything at the first sign of a bump, there's going to be a type of peace that you have about when you let that relationship go. I'm not a fan of holding on to a relationship, struggling, dragging, letting it drag out forever just because you're like loyal. Sometimes people need to challenge that sense of loyalty can be misplaced. But also just like the quickness with which people give up is its own issue as well. So it's about like this balance. It's really about this balance of being present and open to relationships, taking part in them, but doing the maintenance work to try to keep it alive. But if the situation is bad, get out of there. And I absolutely 100% do not recommend anybody stay in relationships, what I call the triple A's: abuse, addiction, affairs. Go ahead and get up out of there. Okay. Again, if you're married, you want to try to work it out after some affair or something, I have nothing to say to you. You should do your attempts, right? But chronic, let it go. You know? Let it go.
That made me think of, who's that woman we listened to, Sade? Esther
Perel.
Yeah, because you talked about in your premarital therapy sessions that you discuss like
infidelity,
finance, infidelity. What were the others?
Trust, intimacy, parenting, family planning.
Yeah. So I wonder, is there like one that if it's not working, it's like a no?
Nope, because a relationship, especially like something like a marriage, like the thing is everyone focuses on the love story, but once you're actually married, you're living life now. You're just living life with your partner. You know what I mean? So life is happening. That means people are going to get sick, jobs are going to be lost, people are going to make more money, people are going to have children. Like, life is happening and you can't predict life. And a vulnerability in one area could just be a vulnerability that goes on, but it can also be a breaking point. Parenting can break a relationship, money can break a relationship, infidelity can make a relationship, trust can break a relationship. Of course, you have your like top things that people talk about, like people say like money is like a number one thing that breaks relationships. And yeah, money is a significant piece, but it's because money honestly creates so much more stress. Money is never just money. It's like respect, it's power, it's security, it's comfort, it's all the things. Money is just trust. Like the number one represent. Yes. Exactly. It's trust. It's more than just money.
Right. Oh my gosh, I could talk to you forever. Okay. I want to talk about this IG post. I think it'll be really interesting. I know everyone hasn't seen it, but I'll try to sum it up the best that I can. And Chelsea, please interject. So someone I know made an Instagram post and she said kind of the backstory was that she was supposed to go on a date. Her date had a COVID scare and she was like, I still look cute. I'm ready to go out. If anyone wants to take me on a date, hit me up. And she got a million replies like, damn, like you just kicking him to the curb. Like you don't even care. Like you're not dating with intention or whatever. And she was like, I feel like this whole concept of dating with intention is a red flag. And I think the premise, or at least what the way I understood it was that, not the premise, like the crux of what she was trying to say was that when people go in dating with intentions, the way I understood it was you kind of have already created certain boundaries. Like you are at times creating a certain checklist. You often have something already in mind, like an end goal. She spoke a lot about how some women go into dating thinking this next guy is my husband, and that creates a kind of challenging dating environment. She's like, you should date to get to know someone, to have fun, and see what comes of it. Am I missing anything, Chelsea, or did you understand it differently?
Please. I understood it totally differently. Okay. When I saw it, I was just like, she talked about like, if you want to get married, just get an arranged marriage. But I'm like, isn't everyone sort of dating with intention? Like, isn't your intent if you're dating, unless you're just like, you know, young in college, just literally just having fun and you don't care, you're not thinking about marriage. But like at our age, I think the woman was like 37, 37 and single. And she said she wanted to be married. So I'm like, then shouldn't you be dating with intent, with the intent of finding someone who is your person? I don't know. Like it was kind of, when I watched it, I was like, you seem very difficult to deal with. And like, I feel bad for the men you go on dates with. That's what I got from it. But yeah.
This is a fascinating case story.
We'll send you the video after.
Yeah, we'll send you the video so you can like watch it fully. But
so her date had a COVID scare. She was still dressed up. She wanted to go somewhere. I'm not mad at her for it. The guy, I don't know, was this a guy that she'd been on 8 dates with and she was really feeling like he was a dude she was zoning in on? Or is this just like a first, second date? You don't owe anybody anything. She wants to go out. She dressed up. I get it, girl. You can put on your makeup is expensive. Perfume is expensive. You know what I'm saying? So she's like, we're not wasting the Fenty highlighter. Like it's being used. I'm not mad at it. The subsequent lecture of why are you dating with intention, that's where I'm like, it's okay to date with intention. Absolutely. Especially I really do not believe that every piece of advice is applicable to every person, right? There's different pieces of advice. When I have somebody coming in and they're in their 20s and their standards are like super high and they're quite picky, I'm like, for the most part, like, okay, like, let's keep doing the process, right? I'm going to help you refine it. But a part of dating at that age is to also learn. And it's okay to sometimes have these, it doesn't have to be exact. But if a client tells me, I'm 34, I really want to have kids, I want to get married, that's one of the most important goals in my life. More important to me than whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So that requires a different dating plan, because you do need to be more intentional, because there is a specific window that you're trying to get this result in that's less than somebody who's in their 20s. So I'm going to start challenging, like, okay, you say you're never going to date a man with kids. Okay, well, now you're dating men this age to this age. There's some good ones that have kids. What about these arrangements with kids? I'm like, oh, okay. So like, let's get rid of that rule, you know, to change things up. But that means you have intention, because you are ultimately dating, hoping for a specific goal in mind. There's a difference between intention and control. Right? I have the intention to show up and serve my clients the best way possible. I cannot control exactly how they respond to me. And if they don't respond to me, then it's not in alignment. You're fired as a client. It's like, okay, right. Goodness gracious. You know, like an intention is really an energy. It's a high value. It's what you move towards, but every single interaction is not going to be perfectly aligned to give you that goal. And that is okay. So I'm fine with people dating with intention.
Yes. I think the way,
once again, be flexible.
The way I understood it, and it's super interesting. And that's why I was like, Chelsea, how did you understand it? Because also like there's so much perspective and like our own past experiences. Like for me, I took away what she said very well, because I feel like in the past I have been so like, okay, I'm going to date this person and they're going to become this thing, because I'm a very controlling person. So letting that down and just being like, I'm going to get to know this person, and because I think they're cool and I think they're cute, and let's see what happens next. And then, you know, you keep going and keep going. And of course, yes, like the end goal is to see, like, could this be someone that I spend an extensive amount of time with? But the key for me that I took away was that you just have to go in with it to have fun. And like, if you're like, this wasn't a good date, okay, cool, whatever, move on. And I liked that perspective, because I feel like a lot of women, myself included, do go so into a date like, okay, here we go, I think this is the one.
And then that puts a lot of pressure on the date.
Yeah.
But I don't think that means you don't date with intention. Like I think absolutely, like took it real far.
Totally.
But I do wonder if you're supposed to date with the intention of getting married. Like
she said she wants to get married.
That's just, I find it so interesting. Like I was at a wedding this weekend, and this couple just is, oh my God, beautiful. Their love is crazy. And they just talked so much about like their relationship with each other as friends. And it just happened over time. And I started to think about how I feel like there's a rhetoric around like finding love as like something to like a box to check, or like finding or like getting married as a box to check, versus like all the like stuff in between, like all the relationship, the love. I don't know. So, which I kind of feel like the approach of entering into it with just being like, where could this go? What could blossom here? Is like a different kind of mindset.
I think it's a different kind of mindset. I mean, but I will tell you, it's not one of the mindsets I encourage very strongly, just because you could wind up with a lot of time wasters, right? What I'm very in favor of is people doing the work. Get a professional, because they're going to help you get to the heart of the matter for you. Sometimes when I talk to people, I know that marriage is not their ultimate goal, and it's perfectly fine. But sometimes marriage is extremely important to people, and it's not up to me to challenge why it's important to you, right? If it's really a desire of your heart, and some people know that without that commitment, they're not going to feel safe and secure inside of their relationship, right? My job is to help you be honest about what it is that truly fulfills you, and then to try to help you to get to that place. So what that means is, if marriage is this piece that you deeply desire and crave, and again, who am I to say that it's bad or good, right? Then do not date people that are like, well, I don't know. I just kind of, maybe, I don't know if I want to get married. It's like a piece of paper to me. Like, that's when you're not in intention. If you want a W-9, if you want a full-time job, do not keep taking 1099 work. Do not go to a company that don't have no employees. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to wind up doing a bunch of work, and you're going to always be resentful that you never got those benefits that you deeply desire to give you the security that you need.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really just about people being very, very honest about what it is that works for them. Mm-hmm. And the problem with all of this information is people are telling you what works for them, but they're not considering individually how this is going to spread across a bunch of people. It's not going to work for everybody. Mm-hmm. So you also have to listen with a discerning ear. And I am also a fan of like maybe listening to people who have what it is that you want.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm like, how okay, I'm not trying to be shady, but she's 37 she said that wait, let me just finish.
Also, okay, go ahead.
She's 37-year-old unmarried woman. No shade to that. Like, live your life. This is 2022. But people are taking her advice who want to be married and want to not have her situation. So why are you listening to her? Like, that's the wrong person to get advice from, in my opinion. But I need to ask this question. Shadi, you want to say something about her?
Yes. All I was going to say is she said it was dating advice. She said, if you want to be married, I don't know nothing about that. I haven't.
She said, get an arranged marriage.
She said, you can go get an arranged marriage.
Facetious.
Exactly.
It was so, what's the word? It was like putting people down. I don't know. I didn't like it. But anyways, I have a question because I have a lot of friends that are dating, and I'm living in LA, Black women dating here. It's kind of hard if you want a Black man because all I keep seeing are Black men with non-Black women. What advice would you give to a beautiful, professional, incredibly kind Black woman who's going on all these dates and they're not really going anywhere? Like, they're not really texting back about a second date or being serious. She always has to initiate. Like, do you have any advice? Would you say
with Black men?
Specifically with Black men? Yeah. Do you say, try another type maybe?
I say try another type as a piece of, I will never say that because I don't.
That was wild.
Sorry.
It's a wild statement to me because I don't believe in like, there's like, white men are not the saviors of Black women relationship issues, right? But I do think that what I always challenge people like is if you seriously want to be in relationship, you seriously want to be married, you seriously want to have partnership, you really want love in your life, is the definition of that love being Black love, is your partner being a Black man more important than you having the love that you want for your life? If the answer is no, open your doors. If the answer is yes, then I'm just going to put one more challenge out there. Are you martyring yourself for a cause? That is not martyring yourself for you. All right. Now, my husband is Persian. I mostly dated Black men in my history. I truly felt that I would need to marry a Black man, or at the very least, a person of color, because I just felt that level of comfort I needed. My husband is Persian. He grew up in Iran. He immigrated to Canada. I feel so racially safe with my husband. So safe. And I think that is actually the deepest need that Black women have. Want to feel safe with our partner, right? If I told you I could find you somebody who you would feel safe with and they would provide you with the love and the resource, all those things, I feel like a lot of people would say yes, which is why I always go back to, do not continue to struggle in your dating life. Get yourself, treat your dating life the way you do anything else. When Black women want something, we want to start a business, we go take a business course, we get a business coach. When we want, this, we get a travel planner, we do all these things. When it comes to love, that's the part where it's like, it should just happen. It's like, no, invest in that area of your life and you will produce results.
Listen, the girl's gonna be looking up Persian, Iranians.
Oh yeah. Well.
She did not say that they're the savior, but I understood what
they
you
are
said.
not. They are not. Yes. There's nobody that's the savior. You're never gonna catch me down, degrading Black men. My dad is a Black man. My brother is a Black man. There are so many good Black men. I work with good Black men. This is really just about finding people love, and that love is going to look different for people. And so you should just be open to figuring out what that love is for you.
As we close out, because I know people are going to want some of these gems, especially people that are dating, you shared a post that 2.5 couples meet online and that dating opportunities come from going outside.
That's what happened.
Yes, 100%. It's like 45% of couples are online now. So I tell people, if you're not online, you are leaving 40+% chance for your connection on the ground, on the app. So you need to open yourself up to that. And then statistically, just like it's particularly women above 30, they need to be social in order to facilitate the likelihood of meeting somebody. I always say, the person not going to ride up on a horse inside of your apartment. You know what I'm saying? Like people can't find you if you're in your apartment. You need to leave your house and date with intention.
By make it sound to me, Sade, I'd be in these streets, girl.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
What?
You be at the not
I do,
where
but
you'll find your partner.
I'm not looking for a partner.
Well, great. That's great. I also had a question because I was talking to one of the women that live in my building. I think she's like 34, and a virgin. And we were talking and she was like, dating has become a little tougher and she's not a virgin because of like religious, or it just never happened. Any advice? Should she be telling people this? Is she obligated to tell people this? How would you?
She's not obligated to tell people this. First, second, third date, you want to be put forward with not providing. If she doesn't, sex isn't even on the table at that point, especially not for her. So she should not introduce that topic, because it's almost like making sure a person jumps a hurdle before there's even intimacy for a person to have a buy-in as to whether or not they like you. Because certainly by 34, we'll say it's more average, right? It's like more expected that somebody has some sexual history behind them. So if you don't have that, it's kind of like going to a job interview and being like, so I've never had a job, but that's like the first thing that should not come out of your mouth. I should be getting to know you. Why do you want to work here? What skills do you have that may have come from other places, right? And then as we do our third interview, if that's something you want to disclose, great. But by that time, I already like you and I'm like, okay, this is not a deal breaker. Let me just say, I have had clients that are virgins in their 20s and 30s before, and I have gotten them results, and they have gotten married. Okay, because that's the other thing I be saying. Y'all be listening to all these people. Where are the testimonials? Okay.
Where are the testimonials? Where are the receipts? Oh my
Where
gosh.
are the receipts that show me that what you talking about works for people? So, it's not the end of the world, but it's definitely not something you should be mentioning first, second, third date. You should be trying to get to know the person, make sure that they even feel emotionally safe, right? And it's something that you want to stay exploring with a person and then disclose that information.
Wow.
Safety is
very
key.
Well said. Safety is
and
key.
that's what I'm just getting from lots of different
a lot of this
places.
Absolutely. And I know the girls feel the same way. We have loved speaking to you today. It was really, really a pleasure. Thank you for the gems. Thank you for the transparency. I hope to see you on a screen soon, setting people up, because I love your banter and just everything about you. I'm like, you would be so good on a show.
Amazing.
Until then, where can people find you? Your Instagram, all the info.
I hope to see you on the show too. Fingers crossed, y'all. If you liked what I did, send me positive energy. That would be appreciated.
Flowing
you can find me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active, at The Gathered Life. All one, 3 words, all no spaces, right? The Gathered Life. I'm also on Twitter, on TikTok, on Facebook. My website, www.thegatheredlife.com. I will help you gather your life.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. This was wonderful.
All right. Chelsea, you have a what would you do?
I have a what would you do? And I'm not going to say it's about me, but I have a what would you do? So, what would you do if you no longer worked somewhere and you get word that your previous manager, who was a Diablo, was talking shit about you because you now work for their competitor? So basically, someone I know told me that, you know, people from their old job are literally hitting them up talking about how fucking terrible it is. And like, can you put in a word for me at this new place if spaces open up, blah, blah, blah. Because these people are really passionate about what they do and like are avid fans of the company they work at. But unfortunately, the manager is not great. And in fact, they all had a group trip together, and the manager was talking shit about my friend and saying, like, oh, yeah, I heard she works at X place, which is our competitor, and like rolled her eyes and all this shit. And I'm just like, you're such a loser. Like,
I would
so the person is
pray
moving
for
on with
that
their life.
person. I would pray that that person can be a better person, because that's sad. I don't understand how they can have beef with this former employee. And it's also very strange to just have, like, how you having beef with your employees in the first place?
And another, what would you do? What would you do if you went to your manager and you said, hey, manager, 2 people from our team have left and you've given me all of their work. Manager, you haven't given me a promotion or a raise, manager. Yet you want me to pick up all this extra work. Manager, I feel very overwhelmed. I don't think I can handle all of this. And your manager tells you, don't ever tell me that you feel overwhelmed. That's the fucking point of a manager. Who else are you supposed to tell?
That person needs to escape, get free, get on that LinkedIn, start hitting up contacts. And you know I'm good for it. Fire me. I want to see something. Because I will have the receipts. You need to record all your conversations.
EEOC claim.
Right. You need to record your conversations, screenshot all of that shit. There's always, not to make light, but there's always, you know, contact a mental health professional if you're feeling overwhelmed and like mentally challenged with the work. And then when you go and express that, you're being told that you're not supposed to say you're overwhelmed when you're doing multiple people's jobs. No. Our generation, we're not doing this shit anymore.
Yeah. But unfortunately, not everyone. I think you and I have had enough corporate experience, but for some people, they have not. And so they get fucking railroaded and they get a shitty manager and they just fucking deal with it. And you don't have to deal with it. Report it, make sure everything's documented. And because that's not okay. That's their job. If you're picking up 2 other people's jobs and you say, I don't have the bandwidth for this, so we need to figure out what the priorities are, and they're not helpful, that's insane. So
I don't know what the HR is like there, but that's also someone you should be speaking with.
Yep. And get your ass on LinkedIn. It's always easier to get a job when you already have one.
A job. Yes, period. Well, I feel for this hypothetical person, but it also sounds like they're on to bigger and better things. So,
oh yeah,
who cares? And yeah, thoughts and prayers to all the miserable bosses out there, because
just miserable.
I don't know what to tell y'all. It's just not looking good. It's not a way to live.
It's not a way to live.
Short life. If you lack melanin, you're gonna wrinkle very fast. So I wish you all the best.
Yes. Well, thank you for listening to this episode. We hope you got some good dating advice, even a little professional advice.
Yes.
And as always, we appreciate you. Please rate, comment, subscribe, share, all of the things. It's really helpful when you guys interact with our Instagram and our TikTok. Yes. It really helps us help fund this podcast that is independently run. I think on our Spotify it still says we're under a podcasting company, but we are not. We're independent. So shout out to that, and thank you as always. New merch is on the site.
Yes.
So
I have to put up one more colorway, more sizes at some point today. But by the time you hear this, the new color will be available.
Amazing. Well, thank you for listening as always. Bye.
Bye-bye.